Live.
We are live now.
Oh, we
We
are
are
live
live.
now. Hi, Michael Miller here with our
Producer.
wonderful young man here,
Producer.
who's our producer of the community newspapers live shows and recorded shows. So why don't you introduce
Yes, sir.
yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ilian Borrero. I am local here for 20 years at Miami, Florida. Um, and yeah, I just
So tell us
recently started
how
working
you
here.
wound up winding up in community newspapers.
So there was somebody named Wilson Alvarez. I go to church. I go to VU Church, and from there I met Wilson, and he's a worker here, one of your employees. And from there, I told him about my background, about where I came from, and then he he sent me your number. I gave you a message, and that's how I'm here today.
Right. And so,
Yeah.
and Wilson asked me, he says, I have this young man. And I said, well, send him on over. So it's been a pleasure. But tell us about, on a daily basis, some of the things that you do.
Some of the things that I do. Well, one, I get here early in the morning so I could prep for the day regarding shows. So we always have like a whole list of shows to prepare. So my main concern, first thing, my utmost priority is to make sure that that calendar you have right there is all done and ready to like just start at an instant.
So some people only have a vague idea what happens when we go to do this. So
Yeah.
we know who the host, who's going to be on the show. So we get their name, all their contact information.
Correct.
We usually typically put their name, guest's name underneath their video.
The hardest part is getting that contact information.
Right.
Yeah. 'Cause waiting for the other person to like send the information. That's usually what the biggest how do you say it?
Hurdle.
Hurdle. That's a good
Right.
word.
So
Hurdle.
so today I'm going to go over some of the shows we're doing. We have what's today?
Thursday. Wrong schedule.
Wrong schedule, but so but here's some of the upcoming shows in next week or so. We have Law Talk, all right, which is Mitch Painter. We have Gloria's Gab, who writes a column and has a weekly show. We have the Solid Waste Department from Miami-Dade County. We have Misty Buck, PR lady, and she brings a guest in most of the time. Haber and Martinez, which is a law
virtual.
firm. And that's all virtual. So when they do the show here, they're actually not in the studio, both of them. Ed Martinez and Michael Haber, they're off-site, and we produce it and distribute it. We have Damian Pardo, which is Forward Miami, and he brings guests in. Gary Allen, he's a comedian and entertainer. We do a weekly show with him. Mark Trowbridge, one of our favorite shows. He's the president of
Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce.
Right. And he and Grant do that show.
Yeah, together.
And then I see next week we have one of the county commissioners is scheduled. That's what we call it, scheduled to be here. Restaurant Dudes with Steve Bradley. I don't want to say Chuck Wagon. What's the name of it?
Clutch Burger.
Clutch Burger.
And who's the commissioner? The commissioner?
Oh, I'm not going to say who it is, so in case she doesn't show up. All right. Les Winston with Route 664.
There you
he
go.
comes in.
Yeah.
And a lot of his stuff, he also has a guest from outside of here.
I have a question for you. How do you feel about young people working here?
It's great. It averages out pretty quickly. All right, so we're delighted. It certainly is a challenge to be able to set an example and to be able to get somebody that hasn't learned that you can't do it.
So can you like elaborate, like make it a little bit more
somebody
clear?
That's been in an arena for 30 years or 40 years, they go, well, we can't do that. On the other hand, if I ask you to do something and I look at you and you try to figure out how to get it done, and you do, and I like the answer you give, I'm gonna work on it, I'm gonna do it. Somebody else who's been around for a long time might say, oh, that can't be done. But the reality is almost everything can be done.
That's true.
Right?
There's already been an answer for everything.
Yes. And so that's one of the things I like about young people, the things that I don't.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask about that.
The things that I don't.
I'll work on it.
Is the experience level of understanding the current move and how it might affect each of those other things. We know, for instance, if somebody is late by 15 minutes for the studio, that backs us up for a long time.
Yeah, everything.
What's that like when we're set, ready to go, and the customer calls, I'm stuck in traffic, I'll be there, and it turns out it's 15 minutes late. What does that do for you as a producer of the show and for the operation?
One, we might have to cut their show a little bit earlier, which is, I mean, I'm going to try my best to like give them their 30 minutes. But if there's a show back to back, then there's no other choice.
So
I'm not gonna,
because we have somebody else that's coming in.
correct, and I'm not gonna let somebody's like not inconvenience, but guess not for not being responsible. I'm not gonna give that punishment to somebody else.
And
that
that's
makes
part of
sense.
that balance. And we have 2 studios, so sometimes we can
Oh, that as well.
we move somebody to the other side, but it creates extra stress for both parties, meaning the guest that's on time and the guest that was late, because it gets crowded pretty quickly.
Correct. Yeah.
And so you
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So for kids, well, not kids, but for younger people that work in this area, do you think there's a difference between like your younger generation and our younger generation? And if so, what are they?
Well, sometimes we think as you get a little bit older, oh, this technology, it's new or difficult or whatever. But even back then, the changes were significant. I know it's hard to believe, but there used to be push lawnmowers, no engines.
So how does that work? I'm not gonna even ask.
On wheels. It was a stick on wheels, and there were blades. So you push it, and it would cut the grass. So the people that went from, I'm sorry, a push lawnmower, non-gas, to gas-powered, that was a big deal. That was a gigantic deal in the sense of, how do I maintain this? I have to put gas in it, right?
Mhm.
And I have to put oil in it, and there's a spark plug. So it was a big deal back then. It was just happens to be different. I think today's generation starts learning to use a different part of their brain. And we're
Come on
on.
in.
Oh, wow.
We're on. Hey.
I'm not.
Okay. Can we have room here?
You want to sit here? Your turn.
Okay. All right.
Another guest.
All
We
right.
have Wilson Alvarez.
All right. Here, come on. We're around this way. So Ilian just asked a poignant question. Wilson Alvarez from 305computers.com.
I'm super casual today, but it's
Yes.
okay.
He asked, what is young people like today compared to when I was younger as far as learning to adapt? So what I was saying, even back then, 40 years ago,
Mhm.
I was using an example. There used to be a push lawnmower, not gas powered, right? You might remember seeing pictures, right? And to have somebody go from non-gas, human power, right, to go.
You're talking about the one that had the circular blades?
Yes.
Wow.
Then you
Yeah.
go from that to, I have to put gasoline in it, a spark plug, all right, and the wheelbase is different. That was a big deal for people when they made that move. I might add that in the 60s, my father was, at night, he would mow the yard in his boxer shorts with one of those.
Yeah.
It really made my brother really proud, all right?
Or you're talking about innovative items, I
Yes.
take it?
Yes.
So let's take it back a second, or several years. What about when everyone had a horse and then the automobile came out?
Right.
And there was the biggest issue was getting rid of the horse to then transition into a car.
Yes.
And that was a big deal
You're-
back then.
So Wells Fargo, I guess 100 plus years ago, said we need to get faster horses to move the money across the country. Finally, somebody said, no, we don't need faster horses. We need to figure out how to move the money faster,
Right.
right? And to go from, horses, all right, to, to automobiles and trucks and planes certainly was a big difference. You might remember 25 years ago, McDonald's started a thing called the Veggie Burger. It failed completely.
Right.
Now,
It's a timing issue.
yes, right now, it's veggie burger meat is like normal.
Yeah, it's seamless.
Right.
It tastes
And a year or two ago, when people started pushing, it was, oh, what about this? And everybody was a big deal. And now it's just like, it's just another product that's there. If you haven't had it, it's good, by the way.
Yeah.
So lots of those changes that are going on. And so
what's the next big change? That's the real question.
I think the next big change for a lot of us that we will have access to that.
Metaverse.
Yes, a thing called metaverse. I got a little practice. Is it Oculus?
Mm-hmm.
Where you put on these goggles and you can create whatever you want. All right. And I have a family member who's involved in real estate. He goes to one of the big condos downtown that's for sale. They have a 3,000 square foot empty room. All right. And they draw in like this a boundary. This is where you can go with the goggles on. All right. Past the boundary are the walls. So you got to be careful. They will you can put furniture into it,
Wow.
and you just put it in. All right. There's that.
You click and drag it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they are. And when I was typing in
Hmm.
with my hand, which is different than this. All right. My email address, so they can send me stuff, and you can pay for stuff
Wow.
on that. And you hold on these handles that convert your hands like this to some sort of avatar thing. And also one of the things that this does, you can meet your friends there, and you can have this crazy conversation.
That's interesting.
When I went into this space, it was sort of a shock. But when I went out, I thought I heard my brain click. It's like,
That's like a different dimension to some
Yes.
degree. To
Yes.
some degree. You
It-
know?
and if you spend a lot of time there, all right, you can certainly get a lot of great applications for therapy and for desensitizing yourself to phobias, and you can see it.
People that have a hard time sleeping could probably use that too. They just put that on and during the beach or during whatever calming.
Incredible. And I think it may be like that veggie burger 30 years ago. This is the time.
Yeah.
Now for that. I hear Facebook with their or Meta as it's now called, has hired thousands of engineers to create this space. And the other part is what's going to happen. It's sort of like the Bitcoin is you're going to be able to buy space in
Mhm.
metaverse and build your own stuff and invite people over to your house out here
Yeah.
and have conversations.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's coming. It's not coming. It's here.
Yes. So one of the things that when you went from a physical touch like this to the internet, before you have a picture and you would look at it, right?
Mhm.
Now there are pictures that are only on the internet,
Right.
and people make money selling that picture, right? And it's not the physical thing that we're used to. So I think lots of big changes.
That's that NFT thing too.
Yes.
That you can buy a partial percentage of whatever graphic or whatever, which is interesting. I see it in the long run happening, but I don't completely comprehend it right now.
So one of
But-
the things that a lot of people don't understand, if there's an image on the internet and it's not your image and it's not made public, if you use it,
You're gonna find.
yes,
Yeah.
buy the one that has the copyright on it, all right? And you have to pay rent, all right?
Yeah.
All right. That's an incredible thing, all right?
But now, using the same method, if you buy that picture outright, buy it, not just buy it for $20. Like
Yeah.
buy the whole thing, $150. I think it costs more or less. Now the picture is yours.
Yes.
Now you can partially sell it. You can break it in 20 pieces. It has to be a very spectacular picture, of course. You know.
I personally think that NFTs, all this buying images, is just like a hype. It's like to make a quick buck, in my opinion. Because in reality, in the long term, nobody's really, I mean, at least for me personally,
Nobody's really
gonna
should
be
be a-
into it.
not get to
Because it's gonna be so far expensive. Because right now it's cheap, right? Well, supposedly cheap.
So
But-
it's a time to buy. Buy low, so high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as time progresses, it's only gonna get super expensive, and from there, nobody else is gonna be able to buy except like the really rich, wealthy people.
The best way to monetize on that is to make sure you have an original graphic, whatever that is, and then sell it. NFT it, whatever
yeah,
the
for
term
sure.
is.
There are artists, whether it's a video artist or a hand artist, that take things, they put it on the internet, and they wait for you to grab it, and then they send you a bill.
Yeah,
That's
that
it.
happened to you, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, $1,680. All right, we used it for 5 years. All right, we didn't even know.
yeah.
It was of traffic,
I shouldn't be laughing.
a traffic. All right, but it was still a photograph. Right.
Mhm.
Of somebody that took it.
Yes, and they
Yeah.
deserve to be compensated, for that. And the question about what's hype, what's not, I don't know. 30 years ago, marijuana, if you had a joint or something, you might go to jail, and it started lessening up, and then they wouldn't bother you. And so most of the states have medical marijuana. 25% have recreational marijuana. Pipe dream 30 years ago. The Congress is considering taking it off the cocaine, heroin list, and a license to open a marijuana dispensary. There's one that sold the other day for $28 million.
Wow.
The license, the license, not the operation, but the license,
I
the
thought
right,
the liquor licenses
right.
were expensive.
the right to do that. So
Mhm.
things, when you look back during the Reagan and Nixon era, marijuana is going to be this terrible thing. And it lasted for 40 years. And
Yeah.
finally, the judicial system said, I'm not putting this guy in jail for a joint. Don't do it again. Right. So now we see that it's completely changed. It went from being, when it was illegal, it was also somewhat of a moral issue, which if you get pulled over, what a grief. All right.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
have to go through the process. Now, because it's essentially legalized, right?
Is it legal in Florida already? For medical.
Medical,
For medical,
yeah.
yeah.
But they don't prosecute under a certain amount, right? And there are people that are buying it legal and traveling across the country through the airports. They don't bother
Yep.
because
Yep.
it's
Really?
because it's too hard to say. If you come from a legal state and you wind up in a non-legal state, what happens?
Not
Right.
even that. Like the amount of time trying to put somebody in jail over a joint is too much. You have
Where
to go to
were you 20
court.
years ago?
Exactly. You have to go to court. Next thing you know, you do have to spend jail time, and just for a joint, I think it's very excessive.
Yeah.
And it's definitely during that era, it was just pretty much targeting on minor. What's it called?
I know this is not the
minorities.
topic, but it really is all about innovation. It's how something was before and how something is now.
Yes.
And it's innovation.
So
Remember-
let's look at McDonald's, Burger King, and other drive-through. When McDonald's was first created, families go in, eat in your car,
Oh, yeah,
or go inside.
it was like a restaurant, right?
It was a restaurant.
It was a thing. Yeah.
to take your family there. Now the thing is 85% drive-through, and part of what makes that more acceptable is that McDonald's changed their operation. They don't want you to come in the store, right? They want you in the
Mhm.
car. It goes pretty fast, and they're making the stores smaller, right? So you'll go in the drive-in. I was in one recently. The over the last couple of years, the dining room, if you call that, was
Mhm.
closed off. And then you go inside. There's one cash register and one kiosk. Before used to be 6
Cash registers.
registers, right? Now it's completely switched around the other way, and they got it figured out on how to do that
I'm mad at McDonald's
because
because for their food, you pay like $10 the other day for like 2 pancakes and 2 hash browns.
Even-
Or like
Listen, wait,
12
for the
or
record,
15.
you bought that for everybody else.
I bought it for everybody else.
Oh, okay, okay.
I don't need that.
No, you're good. But I'm just saying, like the prices have definitely gone up. And if you're gonna eat at McDonald's for $15, might as well go to somewhere like a little bit more luxurious. Not
Okay,
luxurious.
So
but-
that's an interesting twist that's starting to happen.
Yeah.
As
Mhm.
prices keep going up, we keep checking out other places, and that's the advantage and disadvantage. So and you say, okay, if it gets too much, what's going to happen? And consumers are making decisions. Well, I'm either eat less or I'm going to switch. Instead of going to this particular store, I'm going to go to another one. So, what's your take about the companies that are called Amazon? Remember them?
Amazon.
Amazon,
yes.
over 50% of e-commerce businesses with this one company.
Mhm.
What's your take?
So I had a personal experience where I went to like Publix and I was purchasing like a face wash, right? And while purchasing this face wash, I saw it being like $12, $13, $14. And for me, that's too much. That's working an hour. And so I went on my phone, I checked on Amazon, and for a bigger bottle, the same price, obviously you get more of your money's worth. So I looked at Amazon. I'm gonna start purchasing things from Amazon, and plus you get it ordered to your house for free if you have the subscription.
You know, that's really
It's more
again
convenient.
innovation, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that little story I'm guilty of too. I mean, I have gone to a store and I've gone to Best Buy and I see something is whatever, $87, and then I check on Amazon. And if it's like 20% less or something, I get it on Amazon.
For sure.
Yeah.
There's no reason not to.
And
It's sad. It's sad because it's killing the retail,
Oh, yeah.
the retail
Mhm.
chains.
there
but
was an item we needed right away. You went and you checked online, and it was at a particular store, all right? One of their locations. He goes over there, and what did the lady tell you?
Not
Inside
here.
the store.
I forgot, but you probably have a better memory.
Yeah, she
somehow.
says, "Oh, just because it's on the web on our website at this store doesn't mean anything." And so we spent 2 hours, an hour and a half that day going to different stores trying to find it, and it wasn't any of the stores. So we wound up going to the supplier that has it all the time, which
Right.
is Amazon. So that was this gigantic shift of 25 years. Went from, you go to the local store and you would order, and you would walk out the store with a bag of stuff. But let's talk about books and books, right? Mitch Kaplan, he would sell books. But what do you think his prime business is right now? You have any idea?
I don't know what this topic is. I'm out.
When people go there, right? They go there to hang around other people that are in the same genre. It's a quiet experience, and he sells food at these places where people can sit down, enjoy the food, talk to other people that are in the same tribe at that moment, right? And that was certainly innovative, right? And everybody kept saying, well, they're all going to go out, right? Well, he adapted. So when people come into his place, they have a lot of ways for them to spend their money. Whether I'm sure there are books there that are also not on Amazon, but if they go into Books and Books or local bookstore, they're going there for a whole bunch of different reasons, and they want to have a connection. And that's certainly something that I think that a lot of us have lost in going to Dayland Mall. I remember we used to go there as kids, and there would be people you'd meet there, and you'd meet all the girls, and you'd do
Like
all
the
this-
sense of community,
right?
basically.
And I think certainly during the pandemic, a lot of us lost that, right?
Yeah.
And sort of, is it safe to go out again? All right.
100%.
And we see that, right? And we see the chambers of commerce. A lot of them are struggling. But I looked at Mark Trowbridge from Coral Gables Chamber of Commerce.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
I'm about to receive my AA now, and throughout my whole 2-year experience, I've only had 2 or 3 in-person classes. The rest was all done virtual
So
in an online classroom.
Right. So there's a generation that's the acceptable norm. It went from all classes to that. Right?
And they're pushing for that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
wanna do
convenient for
less and
everybody.
less. Yeah, they want to do less and less in classes.
So
It's very depressing. I go to class and I don't pay attention, to be honest. And
when you say
I
go to
should-
class, for a lot of people, that means you're getting in your car, you're going there.
oh no, it's just get my phone, go to Blackboard, click the class, join session, sit my phone down, continue on whatever I'm doing.
Oh,
That's how it is now.
So
I feel bad for for our future.
there used to be meeting
Yeah, and
places.
you're studying to be a nurse. I
Oh
don't
no, I'm
want you
gonna
to.
switch over. I know once I change into nursing, I can't do that anymore.
Right.
For sure.
So back to Coral Gables Chamber, Mark and their team figured out how to keep people connected.
Mhm.
Some of the people couldn't figure out how to do that because of the loss that's happened. Because I'm not going to go, and after you don't go for a bunch of times, then you're out.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that's an adaptation that we all need to make. By the way, in the 70s, when I was at FIU, I was in the precursor to online classes.
I was in 3rd grade.
All right.
Jeez.
It,
I was in
it
third
was
grade.
it was called the external degree program, and they couldn't figure out what classes to put me in. So the dean gave me these assignments: go home and do the work and turn it in. So that was always sort of in the works, but now it is so often it's done like that, and the experience of education is different. I'm not qualifying that; it is different. But the question,
And notice what he said. The dean
Yes.
approved it.
yes,
It's not like now it's a norm.
Yeah,
Now
you
it's
don't even
normal
need
to
the
just
dean's
say-
approval.
Yeah.
So part of the question is, do these newer students that are doing a lot of their classes online, what do they do for the socialization that we used to have by going to class? So what do you do?
I try to talk to people, but people always seem very not isolated,
Introverted.
maybe not introverted, but obviously because I don't know them, but we're in a class together, so we always have that commonality that we have a class, we have a professor, we have this homework to get done and all this stuff. But they always seem not resentful, but intimidated in a way, or scared. The people I only see talking to each other are people that they know since they were from high school,
Right.
kids, all this stuff. I don't know.
I call that
That's just my experience.
introverted though.
Probably, yeah.
So
I agree, to be honest.
So we used to go. We'd go to class, but we'd also go to meet people. That's was a huge part of our meeting places,
Mhm.
and just like different chambers of commerces, and we see how that's shifting. And I sense after a while, after you're not in that loop, then you're not in the loop anymore.
We have a
And then
comment. I'll be right back.
and then it sort of like goes away, right?
Yeah.
And with years ago, when the Miami Herald started sending out some of their work to India, I thought it was terrible. Then after a while, I went, oh. So lots of times it's okay, send the work during the day, and a couple hours later it would be done, or overnight, right? So that's a common way to do business. But the ways we used to have satisfying relationships and getting to that have been forever altered.
Yeah,
we see
no,
that.
for sure. I agree.
And
I'd love to have a conversation with you in regards to, speaking of innovation, the electric cars and the current fuel situation. Where do you see ourselves 3 years from now? I want to say 5 years from now, but realistically, I think it's going to move faster. 3 years from now, do you think there's going to be a bigger push towards electric versus?
Absolutely. And part of that was this pandemic, and now we have then the fuel issues before, and certainly this war that's going on, right, has brought it right to the forefront.
Yeah.
And I was reading an article the other day about globalization as it was before is gone. It's going to be different. The reliance on other countries that produce our stuff in cases like this, right, is going to be changed. Now we know the Hertz bought 100,000 cars, electric cars,
yes.
right? That means when you go to rent a car, oh, I'm going to drive this electric one. Oh, what's that like? Great advertising, right? And so I've had trucks my entire life with cars in between. And I said, this might be my last truck, and it might be my last 100% fuel.
Yeah.
All right. And people have been doing it maybe for 10 years, but as we see, it's common, and the refueling of it, if that's the word, is easier to access. All right.
Yeah.
And I know this administration and subsequent ones are going to make sure we have these battery
electric.
Yeah.
And that's part of my I guess concern. You're driving and then you forgot to charge a car overnight or whatever the case is, and then you run out of gas, but you run out of electricity. Like, what do you do now? And you're in the middle of the highway. You call AAA, I guess.
They've already invented solutions on that. I saw it on Shark Tank.
What was it?
It's like a portable battery, and they plug it into the outlet of the car.
And how long is this
For how many
portable?
hours? For how many miles?
I don't know, but there's like a solution to that already. So people are.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good to know.
So there's be a whole generation, maybe not his, but another one where that 90% of the vehicles will be battery operated. Now
Solar power. That's the way to, in my opinion.
So there are trucking companies, automatic driven, no drivers.
Well, that is something that I am looking forward to.
Right.
Like Google has this X-shaped car that autonomous car, is that what it's called? Yeah. And you just get in it, and I can be in my iPad and take me to Miller's, you know, and it'll just drive here.
So prior to the last couple of years, I could count the number of times I took a yellow taxi or a bus. But since Uber and Lyft were here, I not frequently, but often take it, and I'm sitting in the back and I'm doing my stuff.
Yeah.
The phones have made life so much simpler. So when you're waiting in a line, it doesn't mean as much.
Exactly.
When you're sitting in a doctor's office, as miserable as they get, it doesn't matter as much, right?
Michael, I look forward to red lights. How crazy is that? Because I can grab my phone and I can at least see who texted me, or I can return a text, or I can check my email.
And that's part of how all this stuff sort of works out.
Yeah.
The frustrations that we used to have. No. And
the car?
oh, there we go. What is that?
No, I think that's the one that takes pictures of everything.
Not this one.
No, it's something else.
And speaking of pictures of everything, the United States and the world's ability to take pictures from space, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at the PR campaign on both sides with the war. Who knows what's the truth, right? As far as here's what's happening to the Russian army.
Yeah.
And you just don't know what that is. Hopefully, that'll be resolved. But all those people that are now gone from Ukraine forever, the thousands of kids that don't have parents or separated, the anxiety for people that are living, wondering where their family members are, just terrible. And hopefully something will happen, soon. let's talk, if we could, about Will Smith losing control, right? Yes.
That's a controversial topic.
Yes.
You know,
So
because there's I don't know. That's a controversial topic. I mean, I would probably. I'm somewhat leaning towards Will Smith. It's my wife. I love her. She's being disrespected on public TV. I'm not telling you that I would have reacted the same way, but I can understand how he reacted.
what's the cost to the?
But I will tell you, Chris Rock, even though he disrespected, at the end of the day, he maintained his composure
Amazing, huh?
and he didn't even flinch, and he deserves, you know. But I don't agree with what he did. I don't think he should have disrespected. I think it was low taste, and I can understand why Will Smith did it. And you know, kudos to him for defending his lovely wife.
The and there are a lot of people that have all different sizes, you know, sides to that, and there are people that are defending this one up here. But look at Chris Rock's behavior. And he said this is the best night on TV, whatever it was.
Yeah.
The worst part that occurred, I think, is that that some people might think that became acceptable to do, but those people that received awards on that night, what are we talking about?
Will Smith.
Right.
I don't even know who else won
Yes,
at this point.
And-
Will Smith won Best Actor
and
for several occasions, you know.
and I think what it comes down to is we have to be able to understand our emotions when we get into those situations, all right,
Mhm.
and not to act irrationally, and to understand that we may have this stuff going inside, and you have to measure out how we respond to that. So that's it for me. Got anything else?
Yeah. What was your take? Just don't leave me hanging like that.
Oh, what was my take? I think that Chris Rock got hired because he's penetrating, he's sharp, he insults with a smile, right? He's very edgy. There are no surprises on of the kind of behavior that he has, the kind of jokes that he tells. I think it was wrong for somebody from the audience to get up and physically assault somebody, right, without regard to the reason.
Mhm.
And now he's paying the consequence of it. And so are Will Smith's compatriots saying, "You got up, you ruined my night," right? And the image of Will Smith at the beginning, he was sort of laughing. Then his wife, who was very chagrined with it because she was hurt. That's when it gets critical about what to do. I think that he was wrong. I think he should have sat there and just took it. It would have been over in 5 seconds, all right?
Yeah.
And maybe address it later. But when we lose control, all right, but as he was walking forward, you could see it was like very deliberate, all right? There was no hesitation. He made a decision what he was going to do. And I think it was very costly to the world, but it's also, we're human beings. And he just reacted, all right, because somebody insulted his wife. You can't get away from the assault that took place. At first, I thought it was fake. It was not fake. Chris Rock took it like
The
a
slap
champ.
looks fake.
Right?
Somebody else would have probably punched the guy out, but
Right.
whatever, you know.
And if that was somewhere else, it probably would have been different.
Yeah.
So now everybody's got to go through the obligatory. You can't act like that. You can't assault people without regard to what they say. And think of all the things they've said about all the great actors and actresses. They even have insulting roastings. I watch some of that stuff. It's like, oh, shit, my goodness, right? And they just took it. And sometimes when you have a spouse that's suffering from something like that, was a big deal. Maybe that was what triggered him.
Yeah.
And maybe if it was just a regular haircut and there wasn't a disease process behind it, could have said something and gotten away with it. So,
you know, I think another powerful moment in the Oscars was when Lady Gaga told Liza Minnelli, "I got you." When, I don't know if you recall the moment, but she was, you know, Liza was trying to read and
Yes.
she had difficulty, and Lady Gaga kicked it. She's a little hero for me right now. She was nice. So that was great.
it's interesting as you watch her evolution over the last 15 or 20 years and how her and Tony Bennett and how she was there caring for him and helping him, you know, along with that. And it was nice considering that her appearances have always been sort of on the edge, if that's the word,
Yeah.
right? 20 years ago, it's like, who is this? But now we know who she is, and this loving and caring person, and trying to help people when they need it. I think that's it.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Great.
And thank you, Mr. Producer, social media expert, who's going to be graduating from Miami-Dade soon. Do we have that right? Very soon. All right, folks, have a good day. See you.
Take care, guys.
Bye.